Hey everyone. Alright, so this is just a very simple, very easy way to do like a lizard, a dragon, dinosaur, anything like that. You can see doesn't really require much. There's not too much going on. It's mainly just all about shading and then like the scales and everything like that. I will say that Sandy at Cute Polish actually did a lizard nail tutorial, so if you want to check that out, there will be a link down in the video description to that. But yeah, that's actually all I can say about the look. Again, it's very easy and pretty quick to do as well. So with all that said, let's just go right ahead and get the tutorial started. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these latex pieces. I showed these in my video on how to make like latex appliances, and I just used like a cake frosting mold, put liquid latex in there, and now I have this, and then I also have a smaller version like that. So I'm going to take these. I've already like measured how I want them. I'm just going to take them and glue them on different places of my face, and to do that I'm just going to use liquid latex, and this one's by Mehron. You can get it from their website, but yeah, I'm just going to do that very quickly. I also want to point out while I'm doing this, I covered my brows with glue stick, so I don't have to worry about the latex sticking to them and like pulling out the hairs or anything when I remove this. So if you are going to use a liquid latex appliance, please make sure you cover your brows. Then I'm just going to go around the edges and make sure those are adhered to my skin. Then once I have those glued on, I'm not too worried about the edges because I am wearing a beanie. You could wear a bald cap or anything if you wanted. I'm just going in with a sponge, and it has liquid latex on it, and I'm just going to dab the latex over all the seams where the pieces connect, and then also the edges where the pieces go onto my skin. This is just going to help it blend into my skin so there's a nice even fade. Now that I have that on, and you probably already noticed I put the contacts in because I'm starting to work around my eyes, which is easier to do it now, but I'm already starting to paint everything a green color. I'm using this, which is True Chartreuse pigment from MAC Pro. And then I'm just using it with Mehron's mixing liquid so that way it'll actually stick and stay on. What you use is going to be up to you. Maybe you want to use a brown, maybe you want to use purple, pink, whatever you want to use. But I'm just taking that now and just painting mainly around the perimeter of my face. When I get to the center, I kind of fade it out so it's lighter. And that's because I am going to use a lighter color in the center anyways. But just to make sure everything has a little bit of green, I'm just going over all of it. Now that I have the True Chartreuse painted on how I want it, I'm going in with a little powder puff with that same product, and now I'm just dabbing it on top just to make sure everything's a nice even coat and you don't see streaks or anything. That, and it'll also help set it a little bit better. Now what I'm doing is I'm starting to add more depth and dimension, and the first thing I'm doing is I'm taking this color. This is Spring Green aqua color from Kryolan, and then this one is just black, and then I'm just taking a brush like this. I'm getting moisture on the top of each color. Then I take the brush and I swirl it in the green and swirl it on the back of my hand. Then I dab it in the black, put a little black on there, and then mix them just right on the back of my hand until I get that nice dark green. And then I'm applying this in areas that I want to recede or to just be a little bit darker. So mainly around the perimeter of my face, and then like more of a contour, and then in my eye sockets. Now I'm just going in with the black from Kryolan, and I'm just adding depth in more areas, like just key spots around the perimeter, dragging this color down my neck, only because I personally don't feel like drawing scales and everything on my neck, and don't plan on wearing a turtleneck, so I'm just going to paint that black. Now the last creamy product I'm going to use is just a very light colored concealer, but I scraped some out already, and I'm going to use that brush that I used earlier with the green, and then if any of the green picks up on the concealer, it's totally fine. And I'm just going to apply this in all the areas on my skin that I want to pop out more or have like a highlight to them, which, as you can tell, is mainly in the center of my face. Now that I have all that on, I'm going to start setting everything with powder, and that way I can go in and start doing more detail work as well. To set all the greens, I'm just going to be using different green eyeshadows, so what you use is going to be up to you depending on the color that you picked. And then for the center area, I'm just going to use a lighter colored face powder to set it. So yeah, just go right ahead and get into it. Now to blend everything together, make the scales in the center stand out, and to add more, I'm just going in with a dark green eyeliner. This is Kryolan, it's called Sea Green, and then I'm just going in with an angled brush, and what I'm doing is I'm just taking a hand mirror so I can see really closely, and then just right on the edge of all of these scales, or whatever you want to call them, I'm just lightly applying a little bit of the dark green there to make it pop out more. And you don't need a lot, just a very, very tiny amount. And you can see it's starting to make that shape stand out. Now what I'm doing is I'm going in with that same green, and then once I hit probably like the center of my eye, instead of focusing on the outside perimeter of each one, I'm actually going in between everyone with that same green color. And then it'll be darker towards my temple, and as it goes towards the center, it's going to lighten up. And then this way, all of these over here will still be able to have definition as well, just by using a darker color in between them instead of on top of them. And then before I switch over to black, I'm just going in with the green, and I'm just drawing on little scales on my nose. And same thing with the green and little scales. I'm just going to draw them on this side now. Now I'm going in with a black cream liner, and just like I was doing up here in between the scales, I'm going to do the same thing with this black, but I'm just going to do it on the side and then up into wherever I stopped, which is probably close to the temple area with the green. So I'm just going to go in and do that very quickly. Now that I have that on, I'm just going in with that same black cream liner, and I'm just applying this all over my lid. And then I'm also gonna kind of wing it out. Now I'm gonna go in with that angled brush that I've been using, and then I'm just gonna bring this to a point. Then I'm actually just going to go in with that same brush, and I'm going to just lightly tap. It's going to make it a little bit wider, but you'll still have that nice point to it. Now I'm just going in with black eyeliner, and I'm going to line my waterline. Then, of course, once you have all that on, you can set it with an eyeshadow. I'm just setting everything with a black eyeshadow. Then once you have that on, you could do whatever else you wanted. I like how this looks simple, like this. You could add more scales all over. You could actually draw on more scales. I, again, like how it looks simple like this, so what I'm doing now is the last thing, and I'm just taking a shimmery powder, and I want this to have like a sheen to it, so I'm just lightly dusting this all over the latex pieces, and what that's going to do is it's just going to catch the edges of that and then make it stand out, so you don't have to worry about this affecting all the areas that you made darker in between or anything like that. It's just going to give it a sheen and make it look more like wet scales or a little bit more on like the slimy side. Then the very last thing I'm going to do, since I didn't use a bald cap or anything like that, I plan on just covering like my ears and stuff like this. So I'm just going to wrap up my head and then we'll be done. Just a few last things now that this is wrapped up. You'll notice I don't do my ears in videos. If you do this like for reals, like for serious, then make sure you do like your ears and get in there. I don't do that only because I'm just washing this off right after. I'm not going out with this on, so having to clean out all that stuff in my ears, not fun. And then to spice this up even more, if you put in fangs or added horns, that would add a lot more to the look. So again, you can take it many ways, so it's going to be up to you. This just give a few little tips and ideas, but probably notice that I have two different things going on with my nails. Just the matte black goes with it perfectly. This is actually her tutorial that I have, but just like I encourage everyone in these videos to switch it up and make it your own, I switched it up and made it my own. Instead of drawing on the scales, I just used a Conad plate and stamped the scales on. So yes, I will link to it right here, also down in the video description. That's all. With all of that said, make sure you check out my blog. There will be a list of all the products I used, as well as photos of the nail design. And that's it. So until my next video, I will talk to all of you soon. Bye.